Okay, so I'm live now on Facebook Live, and hopefully this actually works out well, and we don't have a big debacle as far as the connection and it working properly. This is the first time we've done this. Uh, we're live during the Real Estate Plate radio show. We're about 20 minutes into the show, and there's about 40 minutes left. So if people are interested in seeing this happening on a weekly basis, I definitely love to hear your feedback, your comments. And obviously, if you have questions or comments, please type them into the comments and I'll answer them as they come in. And hopefully, I'll be able to um, get to everything as it comes in. Now, I'm going to actually say the phone number again to reach the show. The show number is 516-623-1240. Again, the number is 516-623-1240. And I'll put, I guess I'll put it in our comments so in case you missed it, you'll be able to get it. I know a lot of people, they don't want to call in or they're nervous about talking on the radio. So if you don't want to call in and you want me to answer your question or you want to make just a statement or comment related to real estate, please let me know and I'll answer it without you having to call in. It's definitely a different experience, and especially in the way it works now with Facebook. Uh, it's a really strange kind of situation. I'm looking at myself as I'm doing this, and I'm not quite used to it, or maybe I'm not so comfortable doing that yet. But you know, we're gonna go through growing pains together. So everybody that's coming in that wasn't listening live on the radio as I was doing the Facebook as I was getting into the show, and is now getting part of the show through the Facebook feed. We were just talking about the current state of the market, and I was kind of giving almost a historical type of guideline of where we are in the market. And I'll just sum it up really quickly because I don't want to have everybody that just heard the first portion have to hear the whole thing again. But basically, the market is the real estate market is cyclical, and you start at a low, you get to the high, and then it makes a little loop or plateaus a little bit, then it goes back up, and so on and so on. And historically, that's always been the situation. So where are we now? We started our recovery around 2012 to 2013. We got off the lows that were in between 2008 and 2011. And once we got into the full swing of the recovery part from 2012, we haven't looked back. Now, a lot of people, whether you're professionals, whether you're a homeowner, whether you're somebody that's just interested in real estate or an investor, have been having the question, what's happening in this market? Can it sustain? Are we still in a seller's market? Are we still in a buyer? Are we in the buyer's market? Why aren't houses selling as quickly as they were a year ago? Why aren't they selling as quickly as they were a year and a half ago? Why are we seeing price drops? Why are we seeing all these things? And I'm going to make it as simple as possible, and it's definitely not a simple equation, and it's not a simple situation. There's a lot of factors right now where we've been at the peak of the market, I want to say, for the past year or so. And that doesn't mean that we're going to come off that peak right now. But you have seen some resistance coming in over the past few months as far as how, what's the word? How aggressive buyers have been with their bids, how rabid they were to get into houses. You see, there's a little bit of a you see that there's a little bit of a hesitation. They're not jumping on a house the way they were a year ago. They're taking their time. They're being a little bit more hesitant as far as making that impulse decision. And the reason why is not one single reason. There's multiple things that are factoring in. First and foremost is the rates have gone up, and they're going to continue to go up a little bit. How high, I don't know yet, but we're definitely going to see a continuing rise. And I've mentioned this in the past, and in other shows, I've said that uh, once we hit that 5% and stay at that 5% for a little bit, that's going to be one barrier. That's going to give more resistance. And the simple reason for that is it reduces people's buying power. A person that could get a loan for X amount at 4% will have their buying power reduced significantly if that percentage jumped from 4 to 5%. And that's really important to understand. So somebody that was able to purchase a house for, let's say, I'm just going to give a round number, $500,000 with a 20% down payment at a 4% loan will now have to come up with additional, I want to say, 4 to 5% in order to get that same loan. And that's because the buying power has been reduced. That's if they don't have additional funds or whatever the case is. It it's becoming a little bit difficult for sellers to understand that, uh, but that is a factor. It's not the biggest factor. It's a factor that's affecting the markets. Another thing that's hovering, and people are a little bit um, in question of how this is going to affect everybody, is the new tax laws in regards to property taxes. And it is something that has caused some homeowners to take the impulse and put their houses on the market, and that's why you're seeing a lot more inventory coming in. It's one of the reasons you see a lot more inventory coming in, and people are a little bit afraid of the extra expenses. I mean, there's a lot of people that uh, use that tax credit, and it helped them significantly at the end of the year when they were filing the tax, and they would maybe get a return at the end of the year, or it would be a wash and they wouldn't have to pay more taxes. Now, a lot of these people are going to have to pay taxes out of pocket because of that reason. Being capped off for both your state and your property taxes combined, especially in places like New York, is a factor. And anybody that says it's not a factor is not thinking it through, and they're not looking at the middle class and a lot of the blue collar workers that are making average incomes. They wanted that credit. It helped them, and it's going to make a difference. Uh, you have that part of it. You have the part that the interest rates have been rising. Now, on top of everything else, and I think it's probably the key factor, is we've been on a steady rise from 2012 going into now 2018. That's a 6-year run, and that's a great run for real estate. I think we're actually a little bit longer what the average is. Uh, Real estate typically, if you're looking from a historical point of view, it runs on 7 to 10 year cycles from low to high points and then circles back around. the cycle that we're in, we're pretty much at that 10-year mark. You have all the outside factors, and there are a couple other factors that I think are significant, but a lot of people are not focusing on. A couple years ago, they made the changes on being able to wire and bring in money from other countries. They put the limitations on per wires, and that did make a difference as far as the international buyers. Specifically, a lot of buyers come from the Asian community, from China, that were coming in and buying a lot over the 3-4 years ago. It was a huge influx of international Chinese money that was coming in. It's not coming in the same way it is because they have those barriers of how to wire their money and bring it into the country. That's another factor that's changed everything. Now, I'm talking in general as of now, as far as everything I'm saying for the country. But if you want to get it even into specifics for New York, there has been a lot of people that were working in New York that have relocated. Just out of personal experience and a lot of dealings that I've sold multiple houses over the past few years to people that were relocating to places like Texas, because that's where their jobs were going. That's where people were moving to. That's where the work was. The cost of living was lower there. They got a lot more for their money. It made a lot of sense for them. And you have been getting more people coming to New York, but at the same time, that the people coming into the New York are not necessarily making as much money as those people are leaving. So you have a imbalance, so to say, as far as the buyers that are being replaced, so to say. So that's an issue as well. So I could keep listing all different issues and different reasons of why this market is changing and why we're seeing these different type of shifts, so to say, in the market. But you can't pinpoint one or the other specifically, but it's going to happen, and it might plateau right now. And as I was saying earlier, that's okay. That's not a bad thing if the market plateaus. The best properties, the ones that are priced right, they will sell. If you're using the right kind of comps and you're pricing your house right and you're putting it in the best light to get sold, it will get sold. Here's who's going to have that big problem. You're going to have a major problem from people that are not understanding the way the market's going. They're going to give you a major they're going to give you a major pushback. They don't understand that in order to get their home sold or in order to adjust, they're either going to have to do one of a few things. Either they're going to have to make price adjustment, or they're going to have to actually do repairs or do things to make their homes bring their homes on the same level as the other homes that are sold in the market. The days of I'm selling it as is and I'm going to sell it at top dollar, and I don't care what kind of defects it has, those might be going away slowly. And they are slowly going away in certain parts. And the why I say that is because for the past couple of years, you had homes that really were in horrible shape. They needed tons of work, and they were selling at top dollar because there was no options out there. Because of the slowdown that we're seeing right now, and because of the fact that houses are not selling as fast as they are, you're getting the new homes that are entering the market, adding to the inventory. So the inventory levels are rising. So people have options. So if they're looking at options and you have multiple houses on the market that are in the same category, same size, same lot, that kind of thing, which ones are you going to pick? The ones that are done well, that are best in show, best in class, and it's just normal. It's just the way it is. You know, for years, I want to say because the general public didn't catch on that we were on upswing up until about 2014, but really we're starting that increase in demand on the market sales from 2012 on. And from 2014, you started seeing the sellers and the homeowners starting to see what's going on. And I'll give you a perfect scenario. You have a person that had a certain type of home in an area, and I'm going to use round numbers, and that person sold their house for 500. Then you got the neighbor that looks at their home and they say, hold on, if this person sold their house for 500, mine's definitely worth 525. It's so much better. And it might be better, so it did sell for 525. Then you have the other person across the street that says, hold on a second, if they sold this house for 500 and this person sold for 525, mine's 100 times better. I'm selling mine for 575. And they get the 575. And it just kept going on and on and on like that. And in many cases, you did have houses that were superior that sold at higher prices. But we came to a point where the houses that weren't superior were selling at those prices as well. And that was because of the lack of inventory. That's not an equation anymore. That's not part of the dynamic of the market right now. The inventory levels are starting to correct themselves. In places where you had a drought of new homes, you don't have that anymore. They're coming on, if not just as fast as they're selling, they're coming on even faster than they're selling. So that's definitely changing a lot of things, and it's definitely making a impact on the way houses are selling and the way they're getting marketed. And I'll tell you something, people in my profession, they will definitely have to start working, because just like in every hot market and every top top of the cycle situation, people become complacent. They put for example, you'd have a real estate agent that would just put a sign on the lawn and say it's going to sell. And you know what? There were a couple of years that's what was happening. You actually had people, that's all they would do, just put a sign on the lawn and get the calls. Maybe do an open house, and that was it. That's not happening though. Now they're going to have to work it. It's not going to be a situation where the things are just going to sell themselves. Once in a blue moon, you might get that lucky break that you do get a house that sells easily, but it doesn't happen. It's not going to be happening very often anymore, and they're definitely going to have to roll up their sleeves and actually start putting their resources. And that means actually spending money on marketing, advertising, and the like, and actually get to work. So for a lot of you out there that have become complacent and are enjoying the way this market was treating you, you're going to have to work now. For me, nothing's really changing, because I always tend to market and sell the places the same way, whether it's a down market or up market. I definitely put the advertising, the marketing, and the printed materials all together in the same format, and run the show the way I believe it is the best to get the best possible value for the place. The only difference was I wouldn't have to do it as long. The places that I would typically get sold in a week or a couple days, that's not happening anymore. Right now, I'm going to be in a position where houses are sitting for a few weeks, for a little while, and it's just the way it is. And I'm not including the luxury market. The luxury market is in a different category in itself. That always takes a different type of care and different amount of time needed to get sold. So we're not going to include that. We're talking about your average, I want to say 500 to $700,000 houses on the market here in Nassau and the earlier parts of Suffolk. But you saw you saw the signs, and they've been coming in. You have areas like in Queens where we're on fire. I mean, Astoria has been on a steady increase over the years, and we're talking about major percentage hikes from where they started, and the values are up there, and people are still buying. But here's something that you never saw for years in Astoria, and why I hold that, because I still do business there and I grew up there, so I have a little bit of more of a background and understanding of how that market works. For years, the houses was, as soon as they went on the market, they pretty much sold, if not instantaneously, very quickly. And you wouldn't even have to see any kind of advertising or anything. They'd be gone before you really get the mass advertising out there. You wouldn't even see lawn signs up. Now you're seeing the lawn signs popping up one after the other, and they're sitting on those lawns for a while. I mean, the ones that actually have lawns. Because if anybody that knows the story, not every place has a lawn. Some of them have a little square patch of grass that you can barely get a sign on if you're that lucky. So so that's a sign. That's a key indicator. And the thing that I want everybody to walk away with is you need to adjust and you need to adapt to the way the market is moving. If agents out there are doing open houses and nothing's working, or they're not able to extract offers from people, or people not even showing up to the houses or not calling to make appointments, you have to keep adapting. Sometimes you have to think out of the box. Sometimes you have to go into your toolbox and find something you haven't used for a long time that maybe will help you now. You have to be creative. You have to promote the property properly. And it's definitely not the time to get cheap on marketing. That's another thing that a lot of people in my business do, is during the good times, they tend to pull the cord on a lot of the advertising because they say they don't need it. Well, you know what? If you pull the cord on the advertising when you don't need it, when you do need it, it'll be too late, because by the time you get yourself restarted and start advertising over again, by the time you get distributed and marketed everywhere, you already lost time. You have to keep a steady flow. You have to keep your properties, the place they have listed, your product, because as a real estate agent or as a broker, the properties, the homes are your product. You need to keep them in the eye of the public, and they have to know about what's available and why is it so great and why they should buy it. And if you're not doing that consistently, whether it's good or bad market, you're going to have a problem. And hopefully people adjust quicker than they can. The ones I feel really bad for right now is people that are doing the for sale by owners that have been sitting on their homes even during the upswing of the market, and they already had an inflated price on the house. Now they're going to come to a rude awakening, because if they couldn't get their top price, the let's call it the ridiculous price during the good times, the odds that they're going to get it during the bad times is not very good. And if they really have a need to sell that place, then it's a problem. If they don't have a need for it, no big deal. Uh, it's just the way it is. That's one of the things that people actually have to sometimes learn the hard way with. And I see it every day. I feel bad. Honestly, I get a lot of homeowners call me up for advice, and I try to help them in the best way I can. And believe me, when I get people that sell their house on their own, I don't consider it an opportunity to list their homes. I consider it an opportunity to help them solve their situation. And regardless if I get any business out of it or not, at least I put them in the right path. Because the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is, as real estate professionals, and this is the way we should all be, is we want everybody around us, whether they're selling on their own or selling through other brokers or selling through us, to do the absolute best they can to sell that home or property at the best possible value. Because by doing so, they make the rest of our lives easier by using that as a comp to sell our properties at the best possible value. It's a chain, and it's a community, and it's a process that everybody works off of each other. And it's a situation where people really professionals need to actually understand the dynamics behind it. And I embrace it. I definitely embrace it. That's one of the biggest reasons why I've been running the Problem Property Challenge for the past couple months. And as I mentioned last week, we've been having some really great results as far as types of properties that have been submitted to us. Great people that have come to us with very specific issues, very unique issues with their homes. Not necessarily bad. There's been some properties presented to us that really don't have bad problems. They just have unique issues that they just didn't know how to get past those obstacles. Or it could be sometimes it's been situations where people have had financial issues and they just didn't know which path to go and which direction to take. Sometimes it's as easy as helping guide them by telling them what their options are. Sometimes selling a house is not the only option. Maybe if you're in distress and you have issues paying your mortgage, maybe speaking to the lender, or maybe trying to work out some kind of modification, or maybe working out a payment plan or something to that effect with the lender will save your situation. You won't even have to move out of your house. Everybody has all these different issues, and I'm so happy to be able to help people. We've been helping a few people already, and I'm also in the process of working on a few projects that are great situations for like we're trying to make great situations for people that thought they had very bad situations. One of the more fun projects that I've been working on is the floating home with Mark Handler, who was on the show last week. And this is definitely not a problem property. It's actually a really fun property. And anybody that hasn't heard the show last week, I'm going to be releasing that podcast sometime this week. And you'll be able to go back to it and hear a little bit about the property. I'll also will also unveil about what a floating home is and that kind of thing. And I think everybody's going to enjoy that because it's really a really different property, really a unique place. I had a lot of fun working on it so far. Looks like I don't know how much longer it's going to last on the market, but if you haven't seen it already, you should definitely uh, come during one of the open houses to take a look at it because you're not going to see a house like this on the market very often. It's a rarity and it's a very cool type of home to sell, and it's a curiosity, to be honest with you. Uh, like I said, bar none, one of my favorite properties I've sold, not only this year, uh, in the past couple of years. It's just so different. So I'm not sure of how this Facebook Live thing is going to translate, and hopefully I could get some feedback from everybody during the week to explain, to tell me what they thought about it, and whether it's been something that they would want to see and listen to in the future. But I'm going to adapt. I'm going to try to use the technology in the best way I can in order to keep giving you the best possible product in the future. On this one, we purposely did not take any calls because we're going to have an issue as far as the feed and people being able to hear us. So that's one of the issues that we're going to have to work out in the future. And in order to run it properly, we're definitely going to have to set it up in a way where it's going to be working well with multiple people on the air. But once we get that down, I think we're going to have a really great platform and a very interactive platform. So on this test run and this test show, you got a chance to hear me ramble on for, I guess, what's the run right now on how long I've been on? For a little over half an hour. You get to hear a little bit of myself. For some of you that have never heard the show, it gives you an idea of what we talk about on the show in the future. We had a guest last week. We're going to have guests all the upcoming weeks as well, whether they're live in studio or whether they're going to be call-ins. We're going to have that as well. If there's anybody that has any ideas for future shows, or they would like to hear about something specifically, or they want a question to be answered specifically, please feel free to contact me. Since I am doing the Facebook Live thing, let's keep it concentrated to all the questions, messaging, and comments coming in through there, at least for now. And I think we're getting close to a wrap right now. Thank you all for listening. I want you all to have a great week, and I'll see you again next week, same time, 6 to 7 p.m., just like every week on Mondays. Have a great week.